Remember the time when we first met, girl? Do you remember the time? Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, the podcast where Matt and Todd go see a movie at our local Regal cinema, and then we talk about it in Matt's Honda Pilot, sitting in the parking lot, chilling, talking about life, talking about the movie. Should you see it? Should you not see it? Should you see it in theaters? A lot of should yous. Should ya?
Should ya?
I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, welcome. Here we are. We're going to be talking about a new film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe called Eternals. It's about Eternals. If you don't know what they are, don't worry. We'll kind of explain it to you. As much as I think I got out of the movie anyway. I was really hoping, Todd, for your entrance song that you might do Eternal Flame.
Ah, that's a good one.
But I do like what you did anyway.
Yeah, I figured that because remembering stuff comes into play a lot in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so this is a big Marvel movie with heavy cast. Although I didn't recognize a ton of the people in this movie. It does have Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek in it.
Yes.
And there's someone who pops up sort of at the end that I'm not going to reveal that person, because I think that's too much of a spoiler.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
So who else? Who am I overlooking with my non-Hollywood eyes, Todd?
Well, I don't think you ever watched Game of Thrones, right?
I did not.
Okay, yeah. So, Richard Madden, who was Robb Stark,
Okay.
is in this. And then Kit Harington, who was Jon Snow,
I see.
is in this. And then I would argue the only person who you haven't mentioned who is pretty big, I would say, is Kamal Nanjiani.
Okay. What has he been in?
He's a comedian, I think, who's kind of hit it big with some movies recently.
Have we seen anything with him in it?
Stuber.
Okay.
I don't think we reviewed that one.
We did.
Did we review Stuber?
I believe we did.
Oh, okay.
Didn't we see that? We saw that at a special screening?
Yeah, it was a free showing or whatever, yeah. He was in the last MIB movie that kind of bombed.
Okay.
And I would say those are probably his biggest things that I see.
Well, until now.
Yeah. I mean, I think he blew up. I mean, he was getting big, but he blew up with this movie called The Big Sick.
Okay.
It came out in 2017.
Oh, right.
Like, I think his movie or whatever. And
yeah.
He was a big part of it. And so.
All right. So there's the cast for you. Well, that's not the cast. The cast has a lot of unknowns in it, I would say, because it's still
just not super famous.
Right. Pretty big cast of sort of main characters.
Like the smart Eternal, the black guy was in Godzilla vs. Kong. He was the conspiracy theory.
Okay, right.
Dude.
Yeah. Okay, so what is this movie about? Well, let's see. So there's three sort of categories of creatures that are not humans that you should know about to know about this movie. The first one is called the Celestials, who have been kind of referenced vaguely in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before this. But basically there's these giant, super powerful, godlike characters of which there aren't a lot of them around. And notably you see one in Guardians of the Galaxy, this place called Nowhere, where I guess it's some kind of mining place, and also that's where the Collector is.
Yes,
that's right. Anyway, that's in a celestial head. So that gives you an idea for the scope and size of these creatures. So one of them, Arishok, I believe, is the main celestial on the scene here.
Correct.
And so basically what we find out is he sends out these creatures called Eternals who are like, they're immortal, human-like creatures. They look like humans, exactly like humans. And they go to different planets at different times to ostensibly protect the planet from this other class of creature called they're called deviants, right? Deviants?
Correct, deviants.
Okay. Which are like these beast-like characters who are willing to attack the inhabitants of whatever planet the Eternals are operating on. So those are the main players besides humans. This particular set of Eternals was sent to Earth. And so you've got 7, 8, how many? I don't know. There's a bunch of them who are filling out your main cast. That includes Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek and others that we've mentioned. But so basically, Salma Hayek's character, which is called Ajak, is the leader of the Eternals, and so she's kind of directing what happens. And they arrive at Earth in like prehistoric times to start defending Earthlings against deviants. They're there for a long time, all the way up to modern time, and their kind of their prime directive, if you will, use a Star Trek terminology, is to not interfere with anything that's going on in the human world unless it involves fighting against these deviants. So that's sort of the out to explain why they didn't help with like the fight against Thanos, why they didn't help with any of the other wars or anything that happened along the way, although I think they did in some minor ways at least.
Oh, I'm going to get into that.
Maybe even some major ways. And so you kind of flip back and forth through history and you see different parts of the story of the eternal characters in different parts of history. And but basically what they come to realize is maybe they don't have the whole story here about what their purpose is and what the purpose of the deviants. Thank you. Lost it for a second. It's back. And what the purpose of the deviants is and what a celestial does. And anyway, that leads to kind of a big conflict, even among the Eternals themselves, within their own spirits, to try and figure out what they're going to do about their new knowledge, which I will not reveal to you. That all kind of culminates when they realize the true purpose of what's going on the planet Earth, and that the people of Earth are in danger, and they've got to. Some of them want to try and help the people of Earth. Some of them feel like whatever's happening is what they got coming to them, and so there's sort of a conflict and some battling between those two factions within the Eternals. And that is really the substance of the plot of the movie, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else you can talk about without talking about spoilers and stuff.
Right. So Todd, Eternals, your thoughts begin now.
Well, I'm going to start by getting the positives out of the way, because I feel like I'm going to be in the negatives for a while, so I might as well. Okay. So I sound like a broken record at this point when it comes to Marvel movies, but everything you come to expect from the Marvel movies there. As far as great CGI, some big sprawling fight scenes and stuff like that. I mean, they got that stuff down to a science. So it's hard for me to continue to give them credit for it because it just feels like it is now. But I'll still continue to give them credit. I do also believe the performances in this movie are pretty good. I would even argue better than your average superhero movie, I think, at this point, from some of the performances, I think, watching the movie. So, that was good to see. It's a very super diverse cast of, all these different people, and everyone did a really good job, I thought. And especially the guy who played Icarus, Rob Stark, Richard Madden, I should say. So yeah, I mean, great CGI, great kind of big special effects fight scenes, big, huge scenic CGI shots of big things happening and stuff like that. So credit where credit's due. I thought this movie was kind of dumb. It's just where I'm at. And I don't... Everything started off on the wrong foot for me when, talking about the Eternals, what their mission is, we can't interfere, we must never interfere, and stuff like that. And, the first thing they do when they get to the planet is interfere. Not in, they kill some deviants, but then... I would say arguably the main character of this movie, Cersei, turns a stone knife into a metal knife and hands it to them and stuff like that, which I feel like definitely altered the course of human history in a small move like that. And they continue to do that kind of stuff. And it's just so annoying. And honestly, it reminded me of Halloween Kills, because it would be someone being oh, we all got to sit together. You don't want to separate because that'll be bad. And then the next scene, someone separates and they get killed. This one's oh, we have strict orders. We're not supposed to interfere unless the deviant, whatever. And then here's another scene of them all hanging out with humanity. The smart guy of the Eternals invents the plow, and gives it to humanity and stuff like that. And it's I don't know if it's made to be played off as somewhat comical or somewhat endearing or whatever, but it came off just dumb to me. And so in that aspect, as far as the writing and the story, I thought most of that was really dumb. I got what they were trying to do. They were showing the Eternals in different stages of humanity and what's going on, but in every stage they show, the Eternals are doing what they're not supposed to do. So that was really hard because it's just dumb. It felt dumb. It looked dumb. I was just taken back on how stupid it seemed like it was what was happening. And that was really hard for me to get over. But this is a 2.5 hour movie, and I think they could have easily gotten rid of 45 minutes of this movie. I mean, it's another movie that suffers from a very boring middle to me. There was just a span of 45 minutes where I was just can we just get to the next thing here? I was very much it's not that I don't like slow movies. But if the movie's going to be slow, it's got to be good slow. If it's not good slow, then it's just slow and you're checking your clock. I checked my phone several times during this movie just to see where we're at. And honestly, this movie started on a negative for me as a comic book fan, and I try to separate myself when I go see these movies, but it's not easy. I just don't care about the Eternals. I don't care about the Eternals. I don't care about Celestials. I never cared for them in comics, and I certainly didn't expect to come and care for them in a movie. But that's not the movie's fault. That's just my own hang-up. And it's hard to talk about the other stuff I don't like, because it comes with spoilers and stuff. But I just I really felt like there was something missing. There's 2 end credit scenes. They both are not too much, but I feel like Marvel's losing its magic of these end credit scenes. They used to be, let's get you excited. We'll give you enough information to get you excited about the next movie. And both of these end credit scenes tried to do that, but I feel like they really failed. The first one features characters that no regular person, and even a comic book fan, really wouldn't know unless they really knew comics. And I just thought that was like kind of dumb. And then the second one involves like showing someone who could be possibly showing up for the first time in the MCU, but you only hear their voice off screen, which I also thought was incredibly cheap and just not good. And and for me, one of the biggest missed opportunities of this movie is that Kit Harington, good old Jon Snow, plays the Marvel Comics. I can't remember his name in the movie. It's like Dane or something like that. But in comics, he's the guy known as the Black Knight. He's a superhero, and they tease it a little bit, but then it's like, I don't get why he was even in the movie. Like, it doesn't make. It just kind of felt like they were just throwing a bone in there to be like, let's get some people excited about this, but then let's not truly pay it off at all or anything like that. Like, I don't know. I just really felt like this movie really toyed with my emotions. And I just feel like it really wasn't that good. Like, I can't say it was super bad. I was riveted at times. But Marvel movies to me have backed themselves into this corner of, now every Marvel movie that comes out that has some huge world-ending event in it, and make no mistake, this one has a giant world-ending event in it. Mm-hmm. But no one else on Earth knows what's happening besides the Eternals. Like, there is no, like, shield. There's no nothing. There's nothing. It's just these group of people. And it's not like, oh, our energies are hidden from whatever. I mean, there's no way to hide what was going on. Like, every scientist in the world should have known that there was something bad happening when the movie kind of starts with a global earthquake. And
right.
Like, nothing. It's just all about what do the Eternals do about it, not about what does everyone else do about this thing. So I don't know. I know it's hard because you built this huge universe where. And because of like, money and stuff like that, it's like you can't have people crossing over all the time and stuff like that. But how you could avoid that is not having everything be a world-ending event. Like, I don't think this movie needed to be a world-ending event. I almost feel like they missed a very cool opportunity to just have a interesting movie about like a character study of what could happen to people who are immortal. Like, and grow up through the centuries and see humanity for what they are. And like the best parts of this movie are when that comes up a little bit, but then it never really gets flushed out. Like, it's just kind of there for a second and then it's gone. And I just feel like there's a missed opportunity in that aspect. Also, darn it, if the Eternals are not super powerful and immortal, but super easy to kill. Like, not everyone makes it out alive in this movie. I'm not going to say who doesn't, but it's like, and it doesn't seem like it takes a whole lot to kill them. And that was super imbalanced to me. It's like super powerful beings who at times can be knocked around and be fine or whatever, but then they can be stabbed by a regular weapon and kind of killed. Like, and they didn't like truly flush out everyone's powers. I felt like people were just doing stuff that didn't make sense, and I was like, what are we doing here? Like, the guy who is supposed to be a genius and create stuff, they don't ever go into what's going on with him. Just a lot of hand movements and things being built and stuff like that. And it just, instead of wasting so much time on like a kind of crappy story, they should have invested more into the characters and showing you more who each one was, what they can do and stuff like that, and kind of build something. I mean, the pacing was bad. The story really fell apart to me. And, but I mean, it's a Marvel movie, so it's going to make a ton of money and people are going to go see it. It doesn't even matter what I say. Someone will listen to this podcast and be like, oh, it's a Marvel movie. I'm going to go. So that's me. Matt.
Well, that's you and I'm me. And here we go. I agree with much of what you say. The 45-minute block of boring stuff happening in the middle of the movie Not great. But I did like the representation we got. We got lots of different races of people. We got a deaf lady in this movie. We got a gay character in this movie who has an on-screen kiss with another man. Cool. So I think, representation is important. It's important for people to see themselves in movies and as heroes, and they did a great job with that in this movie. What they didn't do a great job with is making me care much about the Eternals at all.
Man.
Yeah, there were some interesting parts of this movie, but this just really felt almost completely disconnected from the rest of the MCU. Were there some tie-ins thrown in the movie? Yes. There were some things referenced. There was some very lightweight sort of toss-away sentences about what was going on Earth and what had happened with the snap and the unsnap. But I didn't feel like these characters were part of it. Part of all that we've unfolded in the MCU to this point. They just felt like, hey, here are some heroes that show up and do stuff and aren't really connected. So, didn't like that.
Don't let me forget, when we're done here, I'm going to share with you my idea of what the Eternals movie should be now that I've watched it.
All right.
I think it's good.
Great. We'll talk about that.
But also, the woman who played Cersei, I think her name is Gemma something. When I was looking up on IMDb, she was in Captain Marvel.
Really?
Yeah, she was Minerva in that movie, which breaks a huge rule that I thought Marvel didn't do, was that they don't reuse actors in different roles.
Well,
apparently now they do.
Patton Oswalt was in this movie for a hot second.
True.
And he also has different roles in the MCU.
Yeah, but he did the MODOK cartoon, right? Is that what you're talking about?
No, he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, you're right, he was.
Yeah.
They're just breaking their own rules left and right, yeah.
Anywho, so this is a below average Marvel movie, is what I'm gonna say. Are we getting some thunder here?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I'm hearing something.
Maybe the world's ending.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Maybe it's just a jet. Well, anyway, and that doesn't mean it's a terrible movie. It just means I don't think it meets the standards of a Marvel movie. I agree with you. There's some good fight scenes. The CGI is good. The landscape's great. The cast all did a fine job. Except for the part of making me care about their characters.
Yes.
They didn't do a great job with that.
Right. Well, for a 2.5 hour movie, they don't spend that much time on it.
Right.
You just get these flashback scenes in different time periods, and then as soon as it starts, it's basically over, and you're like, well, that's not enough.
Yeah. I think there should have been fewer Eternals in this movie. I think that would have helped a little bit.
Controversy surrounds Matt.
Yeah.
Fewer Eternals.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Matt does not like Eternals.
Well, I don't like too many of them.
Oh.
Much like...
In fairness, I started my thing by saying I don't like Eternals and
right.
Celestials or anything like that.
Okay. So there's some good things. There's some bad things. Overall, if you're a Marvel fan, you're going to see this. And I don't think really anyone else needs to watch this movie. Is where I'm going to land. So,
yeah, I mean, you can't even. There's almost nothing about this. I feel like any other movie that's come out for the MCU has been like, well, you might need to see this because it's got this little amount of information in it and stuff like that. I mean, it's interesting to see where they're going to go from here, I guess, but it's hard for me to believe that there's a road that I would be like, yeah, you gotta go back and revisit the Eternals. No, you could probably sum up everything that happens in a sentence and the person's good to go. Like,
and one of the things that we saw in like previews and behind the scenes stuff is, oh, this is going to heavily touch on what happens for the fate of the Avengers like that whole thing. There was nothing in this movie about the fate of the Avengers.
Like, changes the landscape of the MCU forever. And I'm like, meh.
Yeah.
You tooting your own horn over there.
Yes.
Your horn tooter.
Too much horn tooting for me. Well, okay. So that's what I think about this movie.
Well, Matt, how many triangle spaceships would you give this movie?
There is a large triangle spaceship in it.
Which, I don't know why the ship was so distracting to me, but it's like, it's just a big block triangle.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh.
Very.
This is what we've come up with was space technology for the MCU movies.
Yeah, we don't need aerodynamics. We just need large triangles.
Yeah. 0 being the worst because then you have no space travel. You got nothing. 5 being the best because then you got 5. You can go with 5 spaceships. You can go wherever you want.
I feel like you could do something with 5 big triangle spaceships.
Yeah.
Like make them to form something else.
A bigger triangle.
Right. Or maybe a pentagon or an octagon. I don't know. Seems like a missed opportunity. Well,
get on the phone with Marvel. We gotta let them know about this.
Look, we have an idea based on the Eternals. It has nothing to do with the Eternals, just their spaceship. We need multiple spaceships that can form together. Like I said, I think this is a below average Marvel film, but I think it's a fine film. Fine. Just average. I'm going to go with 2.5. I'm going to go directly in the midline there. 2.5.
Down the middle.
Triangle spaceships out of 5 for this one. You could probably skip this, even if you're a Marvel fan. But if you're a Marvel fan, you won't skip it, will you? No.
Yeah.
You're
I would argue that there's only one important thing going forward that you need to know about this movie that will affect the future of the MCU movies. And I feel like you could tell a person that with a sentence.
Yeah.
And then you're good. You're good to go.
You're golden.
Nice. 2.5, huh?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to land... I think my rating is going to be a little bit better than how I came off. Because as I've been thinking about it, there's plenty of stuff that frustrated me with this movie. But going back to something I was talking about is that I'm not saying the entire cast blew it out of the water. But really, the guy who played Icarus, I thought did a good... I was taken back by his performance. And I don't know if it's because... in general, for superhero movies, I just kind of lower the bar for acting because, some stuff they do is probably incredibly hard, but then some other stuff is like, I don't know.
I mean, he shot lasers out of his eyes.
He did.
I can't do that.
Who knows if that was actually him or not? But
so
I'm gonna be at a 1.9.
Okay.
And not just him. I mean, I do think the acting was pretty good for a superhero movie. And I don't mean to insult superhero movies. I mean, we've seen great acting in superhero movies. It's not like it's uncommon. So, but I'll give a little credit where credit's due. But in general, it's like if you wanted a better score for a movie, and honestly, it's now seeing the movie and stuff like that, and everyone's like, oh, people are review bombing because it's like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, people didn't like this movie because at times it's not a good movie. Like that, you can't blame review bombing or people wanting to purposely tank a movie or for whatever reason. If people didn't like the movie, they didn't like the movie. Like, so 1.9.
1.9. There you have it.
Get your stuff together, Marvel, because this was not a good outing for you.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't loved any Marvel movie that's come out in a while, but, Shang-Chi was fine. Like,
I both Shang-Chi and Black Widow, which I think are the last two.
yes.
I enjoyed both of them. This one, meh.
Yeah.
So, well, that will wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed Eternals. No "the" in front of it, in case you get confused with 1978's The Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding. There's no such movie.
Oh, dang it.
You were looking it up on Netflix. Something later to do tonight.
Yeah.
Well, we gave it an average rating of 2.2 triangle spaceships out of 5, which is a little below average. You gotta work if you want to see this one. Got to work with your own mind to get you to the theater to watch it.
Yeah.
But not terrible, just kind of there. And thank you, all listeners, for listening to our podcast. We'll keep making them, and we'll see you next time.
Da 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 da.
Da da da.